The morning sun had barely peeked over Earth's horizon when the alarm blared through Earth Defense Force headquarters. Red lights flashed across the polished floors of the command center as operators scrambled to their stations. Through the massive observation window, the sight made everyone freeze. 12 massive ships had just appeared near the moon's orbit, their dark hulls blocking out the stars behind them. Tom Gray, commander of Earth's Defense Force, straightened his blue uniform and took a deep breath. After years of preparing for first contact, it was finally happening, just not in the way anyone had hoped. "Report," he ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Sir, the alien fleet just appeared out of nowhere. Their ships are each about the size of Manhattan," replied Jack, the young radar operator. His fingers flew across the holographic display, bringing up more detailed scans. They're moving into attack formation." Gray nodded, watching as the massive ships spread out in a classic pincer movement. 20 years in the Defense Force had taught him to recognize hostile intent when he saw it. Any communications from them? As if answering his question, every screen in the command center flickered. A figure appeared, tall, with scaled skin that shimmered like polished metal. Its 4 eyes blinked in sequence, and when it spoke, the translation AI quickly converted its clicks and whistles into English. "Attention, creatures of Earth. I am High Commander Trix of the Galactic Coalition. Our surveillance has revealed your most dangerous secret. Surrender now and hand over control of your biological weapons program, or face immediate destruction." Gray exchanged confused looks with his second-in-command, Linda West. "Biological weapons? We don't have any." Silence. The alien commander's scales rippled with what seemed like anger or fear. It was hard to tell with an alien face. "We have intercepted your communications. We know about the beasts you have engineered for war. Our intelligence shows your warriors training with these creatures, unleashing them upon targets, teaching them to attack on command." The command center fell silent. Gray furrowed his brow, trying to make sense of the accusation. "High Commander, I assure you there must be some misunderstanding. Earth has strict laws against biological weapons. Perhaps if you could be more specific about what you've seen." The alien's upper right eye twitched. "Do not play games with us, human. We have observed your training facilities. Your warriors clearly state, 'Unleash the beast.' Before deploying these creatures, we have seen how you breed them for different combat roles. Some small and quick, others massive and powerful." A light bulb went off in Lieutenant West's head. She quickly pulled up footage from the International Military Working Dog Training Center. "Sir," she whispered to Gray, "I think I know what they're talking about." Gray watched the screen, showing military dogs training with their handlers. German shepherds leaping through obstacle courses, Belgian Malinois practicing attack commands, labs conducting search and rescue operations. His eyes widened as understanding dawned. "Oh boy," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "High Commander Trix, I believe I can explain. We demand you surrender your beast program immediately. Show us your most powerful combat creature and submit to our authority, or we will have no choice but to eliminate the threat you pose to galactic peace." Gray looked at the footage again, then at the terrified alien commander. He straightened his shoulders, making a split-second decision that would either save Earth or doom it. "Very well, High Commander. With your permission, I will board your vessel with one of our most decorated war beasts. You can examine it personally." The alien commander's scales paled to a lighter shade. You would bring one of these creatures onto my ship?" "Under my complete control, of course," Gray assured him. "Consider it a demonstration of our willingness to cooperate." After a long moment, the alien nodded. "Agreed. But be warned, any aggressive action will result in the immediate destruction of your planet." As the transmission ended, Lieutenant West turned to Gray. "Sir, what are you planning?" Gray smiled and pulled out his personal communicator. "Get me Captain Rogers from K9 Unit 6. Tell him to bring Max, and plenty of tennis balls." "Max? Your German Shepherd. Sir, are you sure about this? Trust me, Linda. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to show your enemy that they've completely misunderstood what they're afraid of. He chuckled, watching the alien ships looming above Earth. Though I have to admit, this is probably going to be the strangest first contact in human history. High Commander Trix paced nervously in his command room aboard the flagship, his metallic scales reflecting the blue glow of Earth visible through the viewing window. Intelligence Officer Pod stood nearby, replaying the surveillance footage that had brought them to this crisis. Show me the evidence again, Trix ordered, his 4 eyes fixed on the large screen before them. The first video appeared, showing the human military base. A warrior in camouflage clothing stood beside a 4-legged creature with pointed ears and sharp teeth. Attack! The human shouted, and the beast launched forward with incredible speed, taking down a padded training dummy with shocking force. See, Commander, Pod pointed with one of his 3 fingers. They'd breed these creatures specifically for combat. Look at the next recording. The screen changed to show a different facility. This time, the creature was larger, its black and brown fur gleaming as it moved through an obstacle course that would challenge even their best soldiers. The beast climbed walls, crawled under barbed wire, and swam across water bodies with equal ease. Their training programs are extensive, Pod continued, clicking through more footage. They start conditioning these weapons from a young age. Watch this disturbing ritual. The next video showed what appeared to be a training center for young beasts. Tiny versions of the war creatures played with small humans, practicing their hunting skills by chasing balls and pouncing on moving toys. Horrifying, Trix whispered. They're programming them from infancy. But that's not the worst part, Pod said, bringing up another recording. Listen to their command phrases. The screen showed various training sessions. Good boy. Who's a fierce warrior? Such a good puppy. Release the beast. Our language experts are baffled, Pod explained. They seem to use these strange ritual phrases to control the creatures. We believe good boy might be a trigger word for attack mode. Trix shuddered. And these, what did you call them? The humans refer to them as dogs, though they have many breeds, each designed for specific combat roles. Some are massive, built for pure power. Others are small and quick, perfect for stealth operations. The screen showed more images. Huge, muscular beasts with thick fur, tiny agile ones that could fit in small spaces, some with long fur that could survive cold environments, others with short fur for desert operations. But this is what concerns me most, Pod said, pulling up one final video. It showed humans in their dwelling units, living alongside these creatures. The beasts slept in their homes, ate from special bowls, and even shared their resting furniture. By the stars, Trix gasped. They keep them in their homes. The humans have such control over these predators that they live with them. Exactly, Commander. Any species that can tame such fierce creatures and turn them into weapons. Pod's voice trailed off. The humans are more dangerous than we imagined. They've somehow modified these predators to be completely loyal to them. Trix watched as the screen showed a human child hugging one of the larger beasts, the creature gently licking the small human's face. Is it removing the child's outer layer? We believe it's some form of biological sampling, Pod suggested, perhaps analyzing weakness points. The commander straightened his posture, trying to hide his growing fear. And now their leader is bringing one of these creatures to our ship, their most decorated war beast, as they called it. Yes, sir, though our scientists are puzzled by something they mentioned. Tennis balls. We've detected no explosive properties in these small yellow spheres, yet they seem to be vital to their training process. Before Trix could respond, a junior officer burst into the room. Commander, the human shuttle is approaching. They're requesting docking permission. Trix felt his scales ripple with anxiety. Never in his career had he faced something like this. The humans had somehow engineered loyal killing machines from wild predators. What other biological horrors were they capable of? Grant them access, he ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. But triple the guard detail and make sure our containment fields are at maximum power. We must be prepared for anything. As the officer hurried away, Trix turned back to the screen, watching a final clip of a dog leaping over a 2-meter wall with ease. "May the ancestors protect us," he muttered. "What kind of species have we encountered?" Commander Gray stood in the alien ship's docking bay, one hand firmly holding Max's leash. The German shepherd sat calmly beside him, his tail wagging slightly as he observed the strange new environment. Lieutenant West stood on Gray's other side, trying her best not to smile as she clutched a small bag containing tennis balls and dog treats. The alien docking bay was massive, with smooth metallic walls that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. At least 30 armed guards stood in a wide circle around them, their weapons trained not on the humans, but on Max. The dog simply tilted his head, ears perked with curiosity. "They really are terrified of him," West whispered, watching an alien guard flinch when Max yawned, showing his teeth. "Attention humans," a voice boomed through hidden speakers. "Please verify that the beast is properly restrained before we proceed." Gray held up the simple leather leash. "Don't worry, Max is fully under control. Though I should mention, he gets excited when meeting new friends." Several aliens visibly shuddered at the word excited. High Commander Trix entered the docking bay, staying safely behind 3 rows of guards. His metallic scales had taken on a pale, almost white color. "This is your most decorated war beast." "Oh yes," Gray said seriously, fighting to keep a straight face. "Max here has been through extensive training. Would you like to see some of his most devastating abilities?" The alien guards raised their weapons higher. Trix's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "You would demonstrate its capabilities here." "Of course, it's completely safe." Gray reached into West's bag and pulled out a tennis ball. The effect was immediate. Max's tail began wagging faster, and he focused intensely on the yellow sphere. "The ritual object," one of the alien scientists exclaimed from behind a protective shield. "Sir, our sensors detect no explosive materials, but the beast's reaction suggests some form of psychological trigger." Gray held up the ball. Max sat perfectly still, following it with his eyes. The aliens watched in terrified fascination. "Observe his first devastating ability," Gray announced. Then he threw the ball across the docking bay. "Max, fetch." The German shepherd bounded after the ball with joyful energy. Several aliens screamed. One guard fainted. Trix stumbled backward as Max ran past their defensive line, grabbed the ball, and trotted proudly back to Gray. "Good boy," Gray said, patting Max's head. The dog's tongue lolled out happily. "The activation phrase," the scientist shouted. "It's now in attack mode." "Not exactly," West said, stepping forward. "Would anyone like to try throwing the ball?" The alien stared at her as if she had suggested they jump into a black hole. I will observe," Trix said after a long moment. "For scientific purposes." Gray handed him the tennis ball. The alien commander held it like it might explode, his scaled hands trembling slightly. "Just toss it anywhere," Gray encouraged. "Max will bring it right back." Trix threw the ball, perhaps harder than he intended, and it bounced off a far wall. Max happily chased after it, his nails clicking on the metallic floor. When he returned and dropped the ball at Trix's feet, the alien commander nearly jumped out of his scales. It's offering me the ritual object," Trix asked, bewildered. "He wants you to throw it again," Gray explained. "That's what makes him happy." "Happy?" The alien scientist moved closer, his fear seemingly overcome by curiosity. "You mean this isn't a training exercise?" "Well, it is training, but not for war. Max is a police dog. He helps us find lost people, detect dangerous substances, and sometimes catches bad guys. But mostly, he's a companion." "Companion." Trix looked down at Max, who sat looking up at him with friendly eyes. "You mean, it's not a weapon? Would you like to pet him?" West offered. "He's very gentle." The entire alien crew watched in astonishment as their commander slowly, cautiously, reached out one scaled hand. Max sniffed it politely, then gave it a small lick. Trix jerked his hand back in surprise. It used its tongue. But it didn't hurt. The commander looked at his hand in confusion. "I don't understand. All our intelligence suggested these were your ultimate biological weapons." Gray smiled, scratching behind Max's ears. "Sorry to disappoint you, but the only things Max attacks are his food bowl and his favorite squeaky toy." Speaking of which, he reached into the bag and pulled out a bright purple dinosaur toy that squeaked when squeezed. The sound made every alien in the room jump, but Max just barked happily, tail wagging even faster. "Perhaps," Trix said slowly, "we should discuss this situation in more detail. And maybe throw the ball a few more times. For diplomatic purposes, of course." The alien command center was unlike anything Gray had ever seen. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing various parts of Earth and space around them. But right now, nobody was looking at the displays. All eyes, and there were many, since each alien had 4 of them, were fixed on Max. The German Shepherd sat calmly in the middle of the room, surrounded by curious aliens who had gradually moved closer. The initial fear was slowly turning into fascination. Even the guards had lowered their weapons, though they still twitched whenever Max's tail wagged too enthusiastically. "Remarkable," said the alien scientist, who had introduced himself as Dr. Beam. He was braver than the others, having moved within arm's reach of Max. "And you say this process began thousands of years ago?" "That's right," Gray explained, watching as Max followed the scientist's movements with friendly interest. "Humans first started domesticating wolves. That's what dogs originally came from, about 15,000 years ago." "Wolves?" Commander Trix, who had finally stopped hiding behind his guards, leaned forward. "We have studied Earth's wolves. They are apex predators. You're saying these dogs were once like them?" Lieutenant West nodded. "Through selective breeding and lots of patience, humans gradually developed different breeds of dogs. Some for hunting, some for herding, some for companionship. Max here comes from a line bred specifically for police and military work." Dr. Beam pulled out a strange device that emitted a soft humming sound. "May I scan him? I promise it won't cause any discomfort." Gray nodded, and the scientist slowly moved the device over Max's body. The dog just wagged his tail, clearly enjoying being the center of attention. "Fascinating," Dr. Beam exclaimed, looking at the readings. "The physical capabilities are impressive. Enhanced sense of smell, excellent hearing, strong muscles. But look at these brain patterns." He turned to Commander Trix. "Sir, the neural activity shows strong emotional bonds. This creature isn't serving humans out of fear or control. It genuinely loves them." "Loves them." Trix moved closer, his scales now showing hints of blue, which Gray had learned indicated curiosity. "How is this possible?" "Watch this," Gray said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small treat. Max's ears immediately perked up. "Max, sit." Max sat. "Lay down." Max laid down. "Roll over." Max rolled over, then sat back up, looking expectantly at the treat. "Good boy." Gray gave him the treat, which Max happily munched. The aliens watched this exchange with amazement. One of the younger guards whispered to another, "Did you see that? No force fields, no neural controls, not even a threatening tone." Commander Trix shook his head in wonder. "All this time, we thought these were weapons you had engineered through terrible science." But instead, Dr. Beam finished, now boldly scratching behind Max's ears, "they created partnership through patience and kindness. Commander, do you realize what this means? In all our explorations of the galaxy, we've never encountered a species that formed such deep bonds with another life form. The humans didn't conquer these creatures. They befriended them. Max chose this moment to roll onto his back, asking for belly rubs. Several aliens gasped at this display of trust. "Is this normal behavior?" Trix asked, watching as Dr. Beam cautiously rubbed Max's belly. "Very normal," West smiled. "Dogs love showing affection to their friends. And it looks like Max has made quite a few new friends today." More aliens were now gathering around, each wanting to try petting Max. The dog was in heaven, soaking up attention from dozens of scaled hands. His tail wagged so fast, it was practically a blur. "To think we almost started a war," Trix muttered, watching his crew interact with the dog. "All because we couldn't imagine that strength could come from friendship rather than fear." Gray nodded. Sometimes the strongest bonds aren't formed through force or control, but through trust and companionship. "Commander Trix," Dr. Beam said suddenly, looking up from his readings. "These scans show something else interesting. This isn't just a one-way bond. The humans haven't simply tamed these creatures. They've formed a mutual partnership that has actually altered both species' brain chemistry. They've evolved together." Trix looked at Max, then at the humans, his 4 eyes wide with realization. Perhaps we have much to learn from Earth after all." Just then, Max let out a big yawn, showing all his teeth. Several aliens jumped back, but quickly returned when they realized he was just tired. The sight of a fierce-looking German shepherd surrounded by adoring aliens, all wanting to pet him, made Gray smile. Sometimes the best way to bridge the gap between worlds was with a wagging tail and a friendly bark. The mood in the alien ship's recreation area had changed dramatically over the past few hours. What started as a tense diplomatic meeting had turned into something that looked more like a party. Max was still the center of attention, now showing off his favorite game, fetch. Commander Trix stood beside Gray, watching as his crew members took turns throwing the tennis ball. Each time, Max would happily chase after it, bring it back, and wait for the next throw. The aliens had quickly learned that Max would always return the ball, and their initial fear had transformed into pure enjoyment. "I still can't quite believe it," Trix said, his scales now a pleasant shade of blue-green that indicated happiness. "We spent months preparing for war, analyzing what we thought were weapon training videos, and it turns out we were watching playtime." Gray chuckled. "Well, some of it was actual training. Police dogs like Max need to stay sharp. But yes, most of what you saw was just dogs being dogs." Across the room, Dr. Beam was conducting what he called important cultural research by teaching Max to shake hands with his 3-fingered grip. The German shepherd seemed to have no trouble adjusting to alien anatomy, happily offering his paw to anyone who wanted to try. Sir," a young alien officer rushed up to them, excitement making his scales shimmer. "The beast, I mean Max, he did something amazing. When I threw the ball too hard, and it went behind the food dispensers, he found it. How did he know where it was?" "Dogs have an incredible sense of smell," Lieutenant West explained. "They can track scents that humans can't even detect. That's one reason they make such good police partners. They can find hidden things or missing people." "Smell." Dr. Beam's head snapped up from his research. "That's how they do it. We thought they were using some kind of advanced biosonar." The scientist pulled out his scanning device again, but this time he pointed it at his own head. "Fascinating. Our species has a very limited sense of smell compared to Earth mammals. No wonder we misunderstood so much about their capabilities." Just then, Max flopped down in the middle of the room, panting happily from all the exercise. Several aliens gasped. "Is he malfunctioning?" one guard asked nervously. "No," Gray laughed. "He's just taking a break. Even the most energetic dog needs rest sometimes." But he's showing his teeth," another alien pointed out. "That's a smile," West said. "When dogs show their teeth like that, with a relaxed face and wagging tail, it means they're happy and comfortable. This information caused a flurry of activity as Dr. Beam and his fellow scientists rushed to update their cultural databases. Everything we thought we knew about threat displays needs to be revised, the doctor muttered excitedly. Commander Trix shook his head in amazement. In just one day, every assumption we made about humans has been proven wrong. We thought you were warmongers who created biological weapons. Instead, we find you're capable of forming deep, lasting bonds with other species. Not just capable, Dr. Beam interrupted. Commander, look at these readings. The neural patterns I'm detecting show that both Max and the humans produce pleasure chemicals when they interact. They've literally evolved to be happy in each other's company. A young alien scientist raised her hand. But what about the aggressive training we saw? The attack commands. Those are carefully controlled situations, Gray explained. Police dogs need to be able to help us in dangerous situations, but they're trained to respond only to specific commands and to use minimum force. Most of the time, just having a dog present prevents any violence. Nobody wants to fight when they see those teeth. Max chose this moment to roll over, exposing his belly to the nearest group of aliens. Several of them had learned by now that this was an invitation for belly rubs, and they happily oblige. It's extraordinary, Trix mused. On our world, we pride ourselves on our advanced technology, our logical approach to problems. But here you humans are, showing us a completely different kind of advancement. The ability to turn a former predator into a trusted friend. Speaking of friends, West said with a smile, I think Max has made quite a few today. She was right. Around the room, aliens who had been terrified of Max just hours ago were now playing with him, petting him, and even taking pictures with their alien equivalents of cameras. The dog was loving every minute of it, giving out free licks, which no longer caused panic, and happily accepting treats from his new alien admirers. Commander, Dr. Beam called out, would it be possible? That is, could we perhaps arrange for more cultural exchanges like this? Gray and Trix looked at each other, both thinking the same thing. Sometimes the best diplomatic relations start with a wagging tail. 2 weeks had passed since the first contact incident, and the alien flagship's observation deck had been transformed. What was once a sterile military command center now featured a small grass patch brought up from Earth, where Max and 3 other dogs were demonstrating different skills to an amazed alien audience. Commander Trix sat beside Gray, watching as Dr. Beam worked with a border collie named Scout, who was showing off her herding abilities with a group of moving robotic balls. The alien scientist had replaced his usual formal robes with what he called his dog training outfit, complete with a pocket full of treats. You know, Trix said, his scales shifting to a thoughtful purple color, when we first detected Earth's radio signals and began our surveillance, we thought we understood humans. We saw your cities, your weapons, your technology. But we completely missed the most important part. Which is? Gray asked, though he had a feeling he knew the answer. Your ability to connect. Trix gestured to where Max was teaching a group of young alien officers how to play tug-of-war. Our species has always believed that advancement meant becoming more logical, more controlled, more separate from nature. But humans, you took a different path. On the grass patch, a golden retriever named Buddy was demonstrating search and rescue techniques, finding hidden objects using only his nose. The alien scientists were beside themselves with excitement, their instruments recording every detail. Look at this scan, Dr. Beam called out, hurrying over with his datapad. When the dog successfully finds the target, both the human handler and the dog show identical spikes in positive brain chemistry. They're literally sharing joy. Lieutenant West, who had been supervising the demonstrations, joined them with a smile. That's why our partnership with dogs works so well. It's not just training, it's a real emotional bond. A small commotion drew their attention to the far side of the deck. A husky named Luna had discovered that aliens could give belly rubs just as well as humans, and she had flopped over in front of a group of security officers. The once fearsome guards were now taking turns petting her, their weapons completely forgotten. "We've had to revise our entire assessment of Earth," Trix admitted. "Our initial reports labeled humans as a dangerous species because of your ability to control these beasts. But now we understand. You didn't control them at all. We befriended them." Gray nodded. "Over thousands of years, we learned to work together, to understand each other. Dogs helped us hunt, protected our homes, kept us warm, and eventually became part of our families." Dr. Beam, who had been frantically taking notes, looked up. "But that's what's so remarkable. You didn't just domesticate them. You formed a genuine cross-species society. Do you realize how rare that is in the galaxy?" "Is it?" West asked. "In all our explorations, we've never found another species that formed true emotional bonds with other life forms," Trix explained. "Oh, there are plenty who use animals for work or food, but actual companionship, that seems to be uniquely human." Max chose this moment to trot over, carrying his favorite tennis ball. He dropped it at Trix's feet and looked up expectantly. The alien commander, who had gotten quite good at playing fetch over the past 2 weeks, picked up the ball with a smile. "You know," Trix said, throwing the ball across the deck, "when we first arrived, we thought we were dealing with a primitive species that relied on biological weapons. Instead, we found something far more impressive, a species that turned ancient enemies into loyal friends through patience and kindness." They watched as Max returned with the ball, this time offering it to a young alien cadet who had been too shy to join in before. The cadet's scales turned pink with happiness as he threw the ball for the first time. "Perhaps," Dr. Beam suggested, looking up from his notes, "this is why humans have progressed so quickly as a species. You don't just adapt to your environment. You form partnerships with it." Gray smiled as he watched the various dogs and aliens playing together. "Well, if there's one thing humans have learned over the years, it's that life is better with friends, no matter what planet they're from." 1 month after the near-disastrous first contact, the main conference room of the United Nations building in New York was filled with an unusual mix of visitors. Alongside human diplomats and officials sat alien representatives, their scales shimmering with various colors of excitement. But what really made this meeting unique was the presence of dogs, dozens of them, all specially chosen to represent different breeds and skills. Commander Trix stood at the podium, his scales a confident blue-green as he addressed the assembled crowd. Max sat quietly next to him, wearing a special diplomatic collar with both Earth and Coalition symbols. "My fellow Coalition members and honored Earth representatives," Trix began, "1 month ago, we arrived at this planet prepared for war. We had convinced ourselves that humans were a dangerous species that needed to be contained. Today, I stand before you to admit how wonderfully wrong we were." Dr. Beam, now officially the Coalition's first xenobiologist specializing in Earth creatures, stepped forward with his datapad. "Our month-long cultural exchange has revealed something extraordinary. Humans haven't just built an advanced civilization. They've created something unique in the galaxy. True cross-species friendship." On cue, a large screen behind them displayed images from the past month. Alien scientists learning to train service dogs, police dogs demonstrating their skills to amazed alien officers, therapy dogs helping nervous alien diplomats relax, and perhaps most importantly, dozens of pictures of aliens playing fetch. "Therefore," Trix continued, "I am proud to announce the Coalition's proposal for a comprehensive Earth Coalition alliance, starting with the establishment of the first interstellar canine cultural exchange program." The room burst into applause and a few happy barks. Lieutenant West, standing near the back, couldn't help but smile as she watched several alien diplomats reach down to pet the dogs sitting near them. The same creatures they had feared as weapons were now being treated as honored ambassadors. Gray stepped up to the podium next. "In recognition of this historic moment, Earth accepts the Coalition's proposal. Our first joint project will be the construction of the galaxy's first interspecies training center, where both humans and coalition members can learn about animal care, training, and the importance of building bonds across species. Dr. Beam could barely contain his excitement as he shared the next announcement. We've already had over 10,000 coalition citizens apply to be part of the first group of alien dog owners. Our scientists have confirmed that despite our biological differences, we are fully capable of forming the same emotional bonds with dogs that humans do. As if to demonstrate this point, a small door at the side of the conference room opened. In walked Commander Trix's assistant, carefully carrying a tiny corgi puppy. The tough military commander's scales turned pink with joy as the puppy was handed to him. "This is Hope," Trix announced, holding up the wiggling puppy. "She is the first official coalition-registered Earth dog, and my new companion. She will help me understand humans better and teach my people about the power of friendship across species." The puppy licked his face, causing several humans to awe and a few aliens to take pictures with their devices. "But perhaps the most important lesson we've learned," Gray added, stepping back to the podium while scratching Max behind the ears, "is that sometimes the greatest strength doesn't come from weapons or technology, but from the ability to turn strangers into friends and former enemies into family." As the formal ceremony concluded, the room filled with movement as humans and aliens mingled, united by their shared love of the dogs among them. Max, still the hero who had started it all, walked proudly between the groups, accepting pets from both species with equal enthusiasm. In one corner, an alien child was learning to play fetch for the first time. In another, a human dog trainer was showing an alien family how to teach basic commands. Dr. Beam was already planning the first interspecies canine science conference, while several alien military officers discussed starting a canine unit in their own forces. Commander Trix, still holding his squirming corgi puppy, turned to Gray with all four eyes twinkling. "You know, when we first detected those dog training videos, we thought we'd discovered Earth's greatest weapon." Gray smiled, watching as Max showed a group of alien diplomats his favorite belly rub spot. "In a way, you did. You just didn't realize that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't teeth or claws or training." "No," Trix agreed, as Hope snuggled happily in his arms. "It was love all along." And somewhere in the room, a tennis ball was thrown, a dog barked joyfully, and the future of human-alien relations grew just a little bit brighter, one wagging tail at a time.